Captain Jack Morrison stood in the communications room of the orbital station above Earth, staring at the holographic message that floated in front of him. He had read it 3 times already, but he still couldn't quite believe what it said. His hand trembled slightly as he reached out to replay the message once more. The hologram shimmered and reformed into the image of an alien creature. It had smooth crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Its eyes were large and set on the sides of its head, and when it spoke, its voice came out in musical tones that the translator converted to English. Greetings to the people of Earth. I am Ambassador Silent of the Velkari species, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. After many cycles of observation and careful consideration, the Council has decided to extend an invitation to humanity. You are hereby invited to attend the Grand Peace Conference on Valoria Prime, where you will have the opportunity to meet representatives from over 300 species and discuss Earth's potential membership in the galactic community. Jack paused the message and let out a long breath. This was it. This was what humanity had dreamed about since the first time someone looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. First contact had happened 6 months ago when a Velkari scout ship had appeared in Earth's orbit, but it had been brief and formal. Now humanity was being invited to the big table. Captain Morrison, sir? A voice called from the doorway. Jack turned to see Lieutenant Kate Sullivan entering the room. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She had been his first officer for 2 years now, and he trusted her completely. Kate, come look at this, Jack said, gesturing to the hologram. Kate walked over and watched the message play through again. When it finished, her eyes were wide with excitement.
This is real?
We're actually going? Command approved it this morning, Jack replied. We leave in 3 days. The horizon is being prepped as we speak. Kate let out a whoop of joy and punched the air. I can't believe it. Do you know how many people applied to be on this mission?
And we got selected.
Jack smiled at her enthusiasm, though he felt a knot of nervousness in his stomach. It's a huge responsibility. We're not just representing ourselves or even just Earth. We're representing all of humanity. Everything we do, everything we say, it's going to shape how the galaxy sees us for generations to come. We've been training for this, Kate said, her expression becoming more serious. We studied all the cultural files they sent us. We know the proper greetings, the diplomatic protocols. We'll be fine. I hope you're right, Jack said quietly. Over the next 3 days, Jack barely slept. He reviewed the cultural files again and again, memorizing the names of important species and their customs. The Velkari valued harmony and music. The Threxians were an insectoid species that communicated through scent as well as sound. The Preen were small bird-like creatures known for their artistic abilities. There were so many species, so many details to remember. Dr. Daniel Brooks, the chief science advisor for the mission, was equally anxious. He was a thin man in his 40s with glasses that he constantly adjusted when he was nervous. Jack found him in the Horizons laboratory, surrounded by data pads and holographic displays. Danny, you need to sleep, Jack said from the doorway. Daniel looked up, his eyes red from exhaustion. I'm trying to understand their technology, Jack. Do you realize they've had faster-than-light travel for over 10,000 years? 10,000. Humanity has been in space for less than 2 centuries. We're like children compared to them. That's exactly why they're giving us this chance, Jack said, walking into the lab and sitting down across from Daniel. They want to help us grow. But we need to be at our best. That means getting some rest. Daniel sighed and removed his glasses, rubbing his eyes. What if we mess this up? What if I say something wrong or accidentally insult someone? Then we apologize and learn from it, Jack said. They know we're new to this. They're not expecting perfection. They're expecting honesty and a genuine desire to learn. When did you become so wise? Daniel asked with a tired smile. I've been reading the cultural files, Jack said with a grin. Apparently, wisdom is highly valued by at least 70% of galactic species. Finally, the day of departure arrived. The Horizon was a sleek diplomatic vessel, not large by galactic standards but impressive by human ones. It could carry a crew of 50, though for this mission they only had 20 people aboard. The rest of the space was filled with gifts, cultural items, and supplies for the 3-week journey. Jack stood on the bridge as the crew made final preparations. Kate was at the navigation console, running through the jump gate coordinates that the Velkari had provided. Daniel was at the science station monitoring all systems, The rest of the crew moved with practiced efficiency, each person focused on their task. "All stations report ready, Captain," Kate announced. Jack took a deep breath and settled into the captain's chair. "Then let's make history. Take us out, Lieutenant." The Horizon detached from the orbital station and glided smoothly away from Earth. Through the view screen, Jack could see the blue and white marble of his home planet growing smaller. Somewhere down there, billions of people were watching, hoping, praying that this mission would succeed. "Approaching the jump gate coordinates," Kate said. "Activating the gate key now." Space in front of them seemed to tear open, revealing a swirling vortex of light and color. Jack had seen videos of jump gates before, but seeing one in person was breathtaking. The Horizon moved forward, and suddenly they were surrounded by the impossible colors of faster-than-light travel. The first week of the journey was spent in preparation. Jack held daily briefings where the crew reviewed diplomatic protocols and practiced their greetings. They staged mock scenarios where crew members played different alien species, and the others had to respond appropriately. Kate proved to be particularly good at these exercises. She had a natural warmth and friendliness that put people at ease. Daniel was more awkward, but he made up for it with his genuine curiosity and respect for alien cultures. During the second week, they received a communication from the Galactic Council. It was a welcome message with more information about the peace conference. Jack, Kate, and Daniel gathered in the communications room to watch it. A new alien appeared on the hologram. This one was tall and insectoid with multiple limbs and large compound eyes. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Council Speaker Threnix. We are pleased that you accepted our invitation. The peace conference will last for 10 solar cycles, during which you will have the opportunity to meet with various species, attend cultural exchanges, and participate in diplomatic discussions. We look forward to learning more about your fascinating species." When the message ended, Daniel frowned. "Did that seem a bit formal to you? Almost stiff?" "They're probably just being professional," Kate said. "This is a big deal for them, too. They've never invited a species like us before." "What do you mean, a species like us?" Jack asked. "You know, a younger species. We're still figuring out space travel while they've been doing it for millennia," Kate explained. Jack nodded, though something about Daniel's observation nagged at him. There had been something in Threnix's tone, something he couldn't quite identify. The third week passed quickly. The crew's nervousness transformed into excitement as they drew closer to their destination. They practiced their speeches, reviewed their gifts, and tried to imagine what it would be like to stand in a room with hundreds of alien species. "Jump gate exit in 10 minutes, Kate announced on the final day of travel. Jack straightened his uniform and took his place on the bridge. The entire crew was at their stations, everyone trying to catch a glimpse of what lay ahead. The Horizon emerged from the jump gate, and collective gasps filled the bridge. Valoria Prime was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green continents, but it was the orbital structures that took their breath away. Massive stations ringed the planet, connected by glowing energy bridges. Ships of every imaginable design moved between the stations, creating a ballet of light and motion. "It's incredible," Kate whispered. "That's not even the most impressive part," Daniel said, his voice filled with awe. "Those stations could hold millions of beings. And look at the ships. I count at least 50 different design philosophies, probably representing 50 different species. And they all work together perfectly." A communication channel opened, and Ambassador Salenth's face appeared on the view screen. "Welcome to Valoria Prime, humans. Please proceed to Docking Bay 7 on the main conference station. We are eager to meet you in person." "Thank you, Ambassador," Jack replied. "We're honored to be here." As the Horizon glided toward the massive conference station, Jack felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. Somewhere on that station, hundreds of species were waiting to meet humanity for the first time. He just hoped they were ready for what came next. The docking procedure was smooth and efficient. As the Horizon settled into its assigned bay, Jack gathered his team for one final briefing. "Remember, we're ambassadors for all of humanity," he said, looking at each face. "Be respectful, be curious, and be honest. If you don't understand something, ask. If you make a mistake, apologize. We're all learning together." The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss, and Jack Morrison stepped through onto the conference station. The air smelled different here, cleaner somehow, with a faint hint of something sweet that he couldn't identify. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel a bit bouncy. Ambassador Silenth stood waiting for them, and Jack got his first good look at a Velkari in person. The alien was shorter than him, perhaps 5.5 feet tall with that same crystalline skin he had seen in the holograms. But in person it was even more beautiful. Light seemed to dance across Silenth's surface, creating patterns that shifted and changed. The ambassador's eyes were indeed on the sides of its head, large and dark like pools of water. "Captain Morrison," Silenth said, and Jack heard the musical tones of the Velkari language mixed with the English translation. "Welcome to Valoria Prime. It is an honor to finally meet you in person." Jack extended his hand for a handshake, the universal human greeting. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. Thank you for inviting us." Silenth looked at Jack's extended hand for a moment, and Jack noticed something odd. The ambassador seemed to hesitate, and when Silenth finally reached out to grasp Jack's hand, the alien kept its arm fully extended, maintaining as much distance as possible. The handshake lasted less than a second before Silenth quickly withdrew. "Please follow me," Silenth said, turning and walking down the corridor. "I will show you to your quarters, and then we can proceed to the main conference hall." Jack, Kate, and Daniel followed, with 6 other crew members behind them carrying cases of gifts and supplies. The corridor was wide and tall, clearly designed to accommodate species of many different sizes. The walls were a soft white color that seemed to glow with its own light, and windows along one side showed the stunning view of Valoria Prime below. As they walked, they began to pass other aliens. Jack tried not to stare, but it was impossible not to be amazed. There were creatures that looked like walking trees, beings made of what appeared to be living crystal, small furry things that scurried along on 6 legs, and tall, elegant creatures with too many joints in their limbs. But something strange was happening. As the human group approached, the other aliens would stop whatever they were doing and move to the side of the corridor. At first Jack thought they were just being polite, making way for the newcomers. But then he noticed the way they pressed themselves against the walls, as if trying to be as far away as possible. "Is it just me, or are they acting weird?" Kate whispered from beside him. "I noticed it too," Jack whispered back. "Maybe they're just curious about us?" A group of small bird-like aliens was walking toward them, chattering to each other in high-pitched voices. The moment they noticed the humans, their chatter stopped abruptly. One of them pulled out what looked like a communication device and spoke urgently into it. Then the entire group turned around and hurried back the way they had come. "That was definitely weird," Daniel muttered. Ambassador Silenth led them to a section of the station marked with Earth's symbol, a blue circle representing their planet. "These will be your quarters for the duration of the conference," Silenth explained, still maintaining that careful distance. "You will find them equipped with everything you need. The atmosphere and gravity have been adjusted to match Earth standard. If you need anything, simply speak your request aloud and the station's computer will assist you." "This is wonderful," Jack said, genuinely impressed. "Thank you for your hospitality, Ambassador." "Of course," Silenth replied. The ambassador's voice was pleasant, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that there was something stiff about the interaction. "Please take some time to settle in. I will return in 1 standard hour to escort you to the opening ceremony of the conference." After Silenth left, the humans explored their new quarters. The rooms were spacious and comfortable, with furniture that somehow managed to be both alien and familiar. There were beds, chairs, and tables, though their designs were slightly different from human versions. Kate flopped down on one of the beds and laughed. "Can you believe this? We're actually here on an alien station about to meet hundreds of different species." "Did you notice how Ambassador Silenth acted?" Daniel asked, sitting on a chair and immediately standing back up when it adjusted its shape to fit him. "The way they kept their distance? And what about those bird aliens who literally ran away from us?" "Maybe we smell bad to them," Kate suggested. "Different biochemistries and all that." "The Velkari breathe oxygen just like we do," Daniel said, shaking his head. "They sent us detailed biological information. There's no reason our scent should bother them." Jack stood by the window, looking out at the planet below. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. For now, let's get ready for the opening ceremony. Make sure you have your gifts prepared, and review the greeting protocols one more time." An hour later, Ambassador Silenth returned as promised. The Velkari led them through the station toward the main conference hall. The corridors were more crowded now, filled with aliens of every description. And everywhere they went, the same thing happened. Aliens would see them coming and quickly move aside, some pressing themselves against the walls, others ducking into side passages. A tall, reptilian alien with green scales and yellow eyes was walking directly toward them, deep in conversation with a floating sphere that appeared to be made of pure energy. The reptilian looked up, saw the humans, and suddenly stopped walking. Its eyes went wide, and it took several quick steps backward. The floating sphere pulsed with a red color and darted away. "Ambassador Silenth," Jack said carefully. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, Captain Morrison," Silenth replied, still walking ahead of them. "The other species seem to be avoiding us. Have we done something to offend them?" Silenth's crystalline skin rippled with a pattern that the translator identified as discomfort. No, you have done nothing wrong. It is simply that many species have not had the opportunity to encounter humans before. They are merely curious." But that wasn't what it looked like to Jack. Curiosity made people lean in, ask questions, want to get closer. What he was seeing looked more like fear, though he couldn't understand why anyone would be afraid of them. They reached the main conference hall, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. The hall was enormous, easily large enough to hold thousands of beings. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadows, and the walls were covered with viewing screens showing different parts of the station and the planet below. Rows upon rows of seats curved in a giant amphitheater, already filled with hundreds of alien species. "Your seats are there," Silenth said, pointing to a section near the front. "The opening ceremony will begin shortly." The human delegation made their way to their assigned seats, and Jack couldn't help but notice the reaction of the other delegates. Conversation stopped. Beings turned to stare. And in the seats immediately around the human section, several delegates got up and moved to different areas. "This is really starting to bother me," Kate whispered to Jack as they sat down. "Stay calm," Jack whispered back. "We don't understand their customs yet. Maybe this is normal." A Threxian delegate, the insectoid species, was seated 3 rows ahead of them. The alien turned its compound eyes to look at the humans, and Jack saw its antennae flatten against its head. The Threxian quickly turned back around and hunched down in its seat as if trying to become smaller. Daniel leaned over to Jack. "I've been watching their body language. Captain, I don't think they're curious about us. I think they're afraid of us." Before Jack could respond, the lights in the hall dimmed and a spotlight illuminated a raised platform at the center of the amphitheater. Council Speaker Threnix appeared there, even taller and more imposing in person than in the hologram. The insectoid being raised several of its limbs in what the translator identified as a greeting gesture. "Welcome, delegates of the Galactic Council." Threnix's voice boomed through the hall, translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. "We gather here in peace and harmony as we have for thousands of cycles, to discuss matters of trade, diplomacy, and mutual cooperation." The assembled delegates responded with various sounds of approval, from musical chimes to deep rumbles to high-pitched whistles. "Today marks a historic occasion," Threnix continued. "For the first time in the recorded history of the Galactic Council, we welcome a new species to our gathering. A species from a distant world, who have only recently developed faster-than-light capability. Please join me in welcoming the delegation from Earth, the humans." The spotlight swung to illuminate the human section. Jack stood up as they had practiced, and the rest of the human delegation stood with him. He raised his hand in a friendly wave, smiling at the assembled delegates. The reaction was not what he expected. A wave of sound rippled through the hall, but it wasn't applause or welcome. It sounded more like gasps and sharp intakes of breath. In the front rows, a small group of aliens that looked like upright caterpillars suddenly stood and hurried toward the exits. Several other delegates leaned away from the human section, and Jack saw one being grabbed what looked like a youngster and pull it close protectively. Jack's smile faltered. What was happening? He looked at Kate and Daniel. Jack Morrison found Ambassador Silenth near one of the hall's side exits, speaking with a group of other Velkari. As Jack approached, the conversation stopped abruptly, and all the Velkari turned to look at him. Their crystalline skin rippled with colors that Jack's translator labeled as anxiety and caution. "Ambassador Silenth," Jack said, keeping his voice calm and respectful. "I was hoping we could speak privately. There seems to be some kind of misunderstanding, and I would like to address it before it affects the conference." Silenth exchanged glances with the other Velkari, then nodded slowly. "Of course, Captain Morrison. Please, Follow me to a conference room. They walked through the corridors again, and Jack noticed that Silenth chose a path that avoided the crowded areas. When they did encounter other delegates, Silenth would announce their presence ahead of time, giving the aliens time to move away. It felt less like respect and more like a warning. The conference room was small and simply furnished with a table and several chairs of different sizes and shapes. Silenth gestured for Jack to sit, then chose a chair on the opposite side of the table as far away as possible while still being in the same room. "Ambassador," Jack began, "I need you to be honest with me. Why is everyone afraid of us?" Silenth's skin rippled again, this time with a pattern the translator identified as deep discomfort. "Captain Morrison, I assure you that no one is afraid. We simply want to give you space to adjust to your new surroundings." "With respect, Ambassador, that's not true," Jack said firmly but politely. "We've been trained to read body language across species. What we're seeing is fear. Delegates are running away from us. They won't sit near us. When I smile or raise my hand, they react as if I've threatened them. I need to know why." Silenth was quiet for a long moment, and Jack could see patterns of color racing across the alien's skin as if it was having an internal debate. Finally, Silenth spoke, and its voice was very quiet. "Captain, the Council decided it would be best not to burden you with certain information before your arrival. We wanted your first interactions to be natural and unprejudiced, but perhaps that was a mistake." Silenth paused, then continued. "You must understand humanity is unique among all known species. Your classification in the galactic database is unlike any other." "What classification?" Jack asked, leaning forward. "What does that mean?" "I cannot explain it adequately," Silenth said, standing up quickly. "This is a matter for the Council leadership to discuss with you. I will arrange a private meeting with Council Speaker Threnix. Please return to your quarters and wait. Someone will come for you within the hour." Before Jack could ask anything else, Silenth hurried from the room, moving faster than Jack had seen any Velkari move before. Jack sat there for a moment, feeling more confused than ever. What classification could possibly cause this much fear? He made his way back to the human quarters where Kate and Daniel were waiting anxiously. "Well?" Kate asked as soon as he entered. "Did you find out what's going on?" "Not exactly," Jack said, sitting down heavily on one of the chairs. "Silenth mentioned something about our classification in the galactic database being unique. They're arranging a meeting with the Council Speaker to explain." "Classification?" Daniel pulled out his datapad and started scrolling through files. "I've read through all the cultural files they sent us. There was nothing about species classifications. Maybe it's not in the files they gave us," Kate suggested. "Maybe it's something they deliberately left out. But why?" Jack asked. What could be so bad about humans that they'd hide it from us? They didn't have to wait long for answers. Less than 30 minutes later, a new alien appeared at their door. This one was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal and eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. The translator identified it as a member of the Siren species, known for their role as diplomatic intermediaries. "Captain Morrison," the siren said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes, "I am Coordinator Ven. Council Speaker Threnix requests your presence along with your senior staff. Please follow me." Jack, Kate, and Daniel followed Ven through a different part of the station. This area seemed more official, with fewer windows and more security. They passed several checkpoints where guards from various species watched them pass with what Jack was now certain was fear in their eyes. Finally, they reached a large door that slid open to reveal a private conference room. Council Speaker Threnix stood inside along with Ambassador Silenth and 3 other aliens that Jack didn't recognize. One looked like a floating jellyfish with tentacles that glowed different colors. Another was covered in thick fur and walked on 4 legs. The third was humanoid in shape but had skin covered in small scales and no visible nose. "Captain Morrison," Threnix said, gesturing with several limbs toward chairs. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." The humans took their seats, and Jack noticed that once again, the aliens positioned themselves as far away as possible. The room suddenly felt very tense. "I will be direct," Threnix began, and Jack appreciated that. "When humanity first made radio broadcasts that reached into space, we detected them. As is our protocol, we sent observation teams to study your species and determine if you were a candidate for contact. What we discovered was both fascinating and deeply troubling." "Troubling?" Jack repeated. "In what way?" Threnix's compound eyes fixed on Jack. and the insectoid being's antennae moved in a pattern the translator labeled as careful consideration. Captain, in all the millennia that the Galactic Council has existed, across all the hundreds of species we have encountered, we have never met a species like yours. You are the first sapient apex predators we have ever found. The room went very quiet. Jack looked at Kate and Daniel, seeing his own confusion reflected in their faces. I'm sorry, Daniel said, adjusting his glasses nervously. But I don't understand. What do you mean by apex predators? The scaled alien spoke up, its voice a low hiss. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved from prey animals, scavengers, or peaceful herbivores. We developed intelligence as a means of survival, to hide from predators or to better find food sources. But humans, you evolved as hunters. You chased down other creatures and killed them for food. This is evident in every aspect of your biology. Your eyes, the furry alien added, its voice trembling slightly. They face forward, designed to track prey. Your teeth are omnivorous, yes, but you have prominent canines meant for tearing flesh. Your body is built for endurance and pursuit. Even your expressions are frightening to us. Our expressions? Kate asked, bewildered. When you smile, Silent explained gently, you show your teeth. To every species in this room, to every species in the Council, baring teeth is a threat display. It means you are ready to bite, to attack. Jack felt his world tilting. But we smile to show happiness, friendship. It's a gesture of peace. To you, perhaps, the floating jellyfish being said, its colors shifting through patterns of purple and orange. But you must understand, we do not have your cultural context. When we see your teeth, we see weapons. When we see your forward-facing eyes staring at us, we feel like prey being tracked by a predator. Daniel was shaking his head. But we're not predators. Not anymore. Humanity has evolved beyond that. We have civilization, culture, art, philosophy. We know, Thrennick said. That is precisely why we extended the invitation. You are an impossible paradox. Everything in our evolutionary understanding says that predators cannot develop advanced civilization. Predators are solitary or form small hunting groups. They are aggressive and competitive. They should not be able to cooperate on the massive scale required for space travel. And yet here you are. So what you're saying, Jack said slowly, trying to process all of this, is that you invited us here even though you're terrified of us? The Council was divided, the scaled alien admitted. Many wanted to avoid contact with humanity entirely, to quarantine your system and hope that you never developed jump gate technology. Others argued that your very existence challenged everything we thought we knew about intelligence and civilization, that we had an obligation to learn from you. And now that we're here, Kate said quietly, everyone is too scared to actually talk to us. There was an uncomfortable silence. Finally, Thrennick spoke again. It is not just fear, Lieutenant Sullivan. It is also the history you carry. We have studied your broadcasts, your internet, your historical records. We have seen the wars, the conflicts, the violence that has defined much of human history. We know about your weapons, your strategic thinking, your ability to organize large-scale military operations. Most species go through conflict in their early development, Jack protested. Surely you understand that. Most species have small territorial disputes or brief conflicts over resources, the furry alien said. Your world wars killed tens of millions. Your weapons technology has advanced to the point where you could destroy all life on your planet multiple times over. This level of organized violence is unprecedented in galactic history. Jack felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. Getting emotional wouldn't help. So what happens now? Did you bring us all this way just to tell us we're monsters? No, Thrennick said firmly. The Council decided to invite you because the human quarters felt different now. What had seemed like a generous gesture of hospitality now felt more like a cage. A safe place to keep the dangerous predators away from the peaceful prey species. Jack stood by the window, staring out at Valoria Prime, his mind racing with everything they had learned. Kate paced back and forth across the room, her frustration evident in every movement. Apex predators. They think we're monsters. Do you know how insulting that is? We've spent the last century trying to be better, trying to move past our violent history, and they've already decided we're too dangerous to trust. Can you blame them? Daniel asked quietly. He sat hunched over his datapad, scrolling through information. I've been reading through the cultural files again, looking at them with new understanding. Every single species they describe evolved as prey or scavengers. The Valkyrie, the Threxians, the Preen, all of them. Their entire worldview is built around avoiding danger, seeking safety, and then we show up with our forward-facing eyes and our teeth and our history of organized warfare. So what? Kate shot back. We should apologize for existing? We should be ashamed of how we evolved? No, Jack said, turning from the window. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. Think about it from their perspective. They've built a civilization based on cooperation and peace, and now they're face to face with something that their instincts tell them is a threat. That's not something you can just logic away. Kate stopped pacing and sat down heavily. I know you're right. I just hate it. We worked so hard to get here, and it feels like none of it matters. It matters, Jack insisted. They invited us. Despite their fear, despite their instincts, the council chose to make contact. That took courage. Now we need to show them that their courage wasn't misplaced. There was a soft chime at the door. Daniel stood to answer it, and Jack saw him tense before stepping back to let a visitor enter. It was Ambassador Silenth alone this time. I hope I am not intruding, Silenth said, and Jack noticed the ambassador was making an effort to come further into the room instead of staying near the door. I wanted to check on you after the meeting with the council. We're fine, Jack said, though his tone suggested otherwise. Just trying to process everything. Silenth's crystalline skin rippled with patterns of blue and green. I owe you an apology, Captain Morrison. We handled this poorly. We should have been honest with you from the beginning. But the council thought that if you knew how we perceived you, it would change your behavior in an inauthentic way. They wanted to observe you as you truly are. So we were a test? Kate asked. In a way, Silenth admitted. And you passed. Your behavior since arriving has been respectful, curious, and peaceful. You have shown restraint and consideration. These are not traits we expected to see in apex predators. Because you don't know any other apex predators, Daniel pointed out. We're your only reference point. Exactly, Silenth said. Which is why this is so important. You are teaching us that our assumptions might be wrong. But understanding comes slowly, especially when fighting against instinct. Jack gestured for Silenth to sit, and after a moment's hesitation, the ambassador did. Jack noticed that Silenth chose a chair that wasn't the furthest away this time. It was a small gesture, but it felt significant. Can I ask you something? Jack said. You said every species in the council evolved as prey or scavengers, but surely there must have been predators on all your worlds. What happened to them? Silenth's pattern shifted to a darker shade. They died out mostly. On most worlds, the prey species learned to hide, to build shelters, to use tools to defend themselves. The predators, unable to adapt, went extinct or were driven to extinction. On a few worlds, some predators still exist, but they are not sapient. They are simple creatures driven by hunger and instinct. So in your experience, Daniel said slowly, predators are always less intelligent than prey? That has been the universal pattern, Silenth confirmed. Predators need to be fast or strong, but not necessarily clever. Prey needs to be clever to survive. That is why your existence is so troubling. You have the physical traits of predators, the evolutionary history of hunters, but the intelligence and social organization that should belong only to prey species. You should not exist, and yet you do. Kate leaned forward. Our scientists have a theory about that. They think that humans evolved intelligence because we were persistence hunters. We couldn't outrun our prey or overpower it with strength, so we had to be smart. We had to work together, plan, communicate, track animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. Our intelligence evolved from our hunting style. Persistence hunting, Silenth repeated, and Jack saw the ambassador's skin flash through several colors rapidly. You chased prey until they died of exhaustion? Our ancestors did, yes, Jack said. Thousands of years ago, before we developed agriculture and domesticated animals. Silenth was quiet for a long moment. That may be the most terrifying thing I have heard since you arrived. The idea of being chased endlessly, never allowed to rest until death becomes a mercy. The ambassador's skin had turned a pale, washed-out color. This is precisely what the council fears. You are predators who think, who plan, who never give up. But we also love, Kate said firmly. We create art, music, literature. We care for our sick and elderly. We form deep bonds with each other and even with other species. My family has a dog, a descendant of wolves that we domesticated thousands of years ago. We took a predator and made it our companion, our friend. We're not just hunters, Ambassador. We're so much more than that. I know, Silence said softly. I have been studying your culture extensively. Your capacity for compassion and creativity is remarkable. Your literature speaks of love, sacrifice, honor. Your art shows beauty and emotion. And yet your history also shows the capacity for great violence. Your ability to wage war is sophisticated and terrifying. You have killed millions of your own species over resources, ideologies, even abstract concepts like honor or freedom. Jack felt the weight of their history settling on his shoulders. We're not proud of our wars, Ambassador. Every war represents a failure to find a better solution. But we learned from them, we grew. The last major war on Earth ended almost a century ago. Since then, we've focused on building, not destroying, on reaching for the stars instead of fighting over territory on our planet. A century, Silence said. That is but a moment in galactic terms. Some species have maintained peace for 10,000 years or more. Then we have a lot to learn from them, Jack said. That's why we're here. We want to learn how to be better. We want to be part of a community that values peace and cooperation. I believe you, Silence said, and the ambassador's skin took on a warmer golden hue. But belief is not the same as trust. Trust must be earned, and it takes time. Daniel had been quiet, working on his datapad. Now he looked up with a troubled expression. I've been doing some calculations. If humans are the first apex predators the galaxy has encountered, and if our evolutionary path is unique, doesn't that make us valuable? We might have insights, abilities, ways of thinking that no other species has. The Council has considered this, Silence admitted. It is one reason why contact was approved despite the fears. Your strategic thinking, your ability to anticipate threats, your problem-solving approaches, they all come from your predatory nature. These could be useful traits. Useful for what? Kate asked suspiciously. Silence's patterns shifted uncomfortably. The galaxy is not entirely peaceful despite our best efforts. There are rogue elements, pirates who raid ships and stations. There are dangerous regions of space with unpredictable phenomena. There are even a few species that have refused Council membership and remain hostile. The Council's security forces have always struggled with these challenges because we are not, by nature, aggressive or confrontational. We defend, we protect, but we do not hunt. But we could, Jack said, understanding dawning. You're saying that humans might be useful as hunters of criminals and pirates. I am saying nothing officially, Silence said carefully. But there have been discussions. Quiet discussions, understand. Some Council members believe that humanity's unique nature could fill a role that currently goes unfilled. Others argue that giving predators a reason to hunt even legitimate targets is too dangerous. They're afraid we'd turn on them eventually, Daniel said. That once we start hunting, we won't stop. Yes, Silence admitted. That is the fear. Jack stood and walked back to the window. Below, Valoria Prime turned slowly, beautiful and peaceful. Somewhere on that planet, hundreds of species lived together in harmony. Something humanity had struggled to achieve even among themselves. And here, above it all, humans had arrived like wolves entering a sheep pen, bringing all their bloody history with them. What do you think, Ambassador? Jack asked, not turning from the window. Honestly, do you think we're dangerous? There was a long silence. Finally, Silence spoke. I think you are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Your potential for violence is unprecedented. Your ability to plan, to coordinate, to pursue objectives with relentless determination. All of these traits make you formidable. Jack felt his heart sink, but Silence continued. For 3 days after their meeting with Ambassador Silence, the human delegation tried everything they could think of to improve relations with the other species. They moved slowly and carefully through the corridors. They spoke softly and avoided making sudden movements. They tried to engage delegates in conversation during the conference sessions, always polite, always respectful. None of it worked. If anything, the situation seemed to be getting worse. A rumor had spread through the station that humans could smell fear, like predators tracking wounded prey. Another rumor claimed that humans had no natural enemies on their world, because they had hunted everything else to extinction. Neither was entirely true, but truth didn't matter when fear was in control. Jack sat in his quarters late into the night of the third day, reading reports from Kate and Daniel about their attempts to make connections. Every attempt had been politely but firmly rejected. The other delegates would listen to what the humans had to say, but there was no real dialogue, no genuine exchange. It was like talking to people who were just waiting for an excuse to run. A message notification appeared on his datapad. It was from the Horizon, still docked in the station. One of the crew members had been monitoring galactic news feeds and had found something interesting. Jack opened the attached file and began to read. His eyes widened as he processed the information. There had been an attack on a research station in a remote part of the galaxy. Just 2 days ago, pirates had raided the station, stealing valuable equipment and kidnapping several researchers. The station had sent out a distress call, but by the time security forces arrived, the pirates were gone. The researchers were still missing. Jack kept reading. The research station was in the outer reaches, a relatively lawless area of space that the Galactic Council had limited presence in. The pirates operated from hidden bases and asteroid fields, and were experts at hit-and-run attacks. The security forces had been trying to stop them for years with little success. An idea began to form in Jack's mind. It was risky, maybe even dangerous, but it might be exactly what they needed. He called Kate and Daniel to his quarters immediately. When they arrived, Jack showed them the news report. "What if we could help?" "Help how?" Kate asked, reading through the article. "We don't even know where these pirates are." "But we know how to find them," Jack said, his excitement growing. "Think about it. The security forces have been using standard search patterns, predictable routes. They're trying to defend, not hunt. But we know how to hunt. It's in our nature." Daniel adjusted his glasses nervously. "Jack, are you suggesting we go after these pirates ourselves?" "I'm suggesting we offer our assistance to the security forces," Jack clarified. "We use our strategic thinking, our tracking abilities, our experience with pursuit and capture. We show the galaxy that our predatory nature can be used to protect the innocent, not threaten them." Kate was quiet for a moment. Then a slow smile spread across her face. She caught herself and quickly hid her teeth, but her eyes were bright with understanding. "It's brilliant. We become the hunters, but we hunt the bad guys. We show them that predators can be guardians." "It's also incredibly risky," Daniel pointed out. "What if we fail? What if someone gets hurt? We could make things worse. Or we could change everything," Jack said. "Right now we're losing. The vote is in 7 days. And Ambassador Silent thinks we only have a 30% chance of approval. We need to do something dramatic, something that proves we're not the monsters they think we are." Daniel looked between Jack and Kate, then sighed. "You're both crazy. But you're also right. We need to show them what we can do. How do we start?" Jack stood and grabbed his jacket. "We start by talking to Council Speaker Threnix, tonight." Getting an emergency meeting with the Council Speaker in the middle of the station's night cycle was not easy, but Jack insisted it was urgent. Finally, after several conversations with increasingly important intermediaries, they were granted 15 minutes. Threnix looked tired when they entered the council chamber. The tall insectoid being's antennae drooped slightly, and its compound eyes seemed dimmer than usual. "Captain Morrison, this had better be important. I have dozens of delegates demanding that I remove your species from the conference immediately." "I know," Jack said, "and I have a proposal that might change their minds." He explained his idea, showing Threnix the news report about the pirate attack. "Your security forces have been trying to stop these pirates for years. Let us help. We can offer a different perspective, different strategies. We're not constrained by the same evolutionary drives that make your species avoid conflict." Threnix's antennae straightened in what the translator identified as intense interest. "You want to hunt the pirates?" "We want to rescue the kidnapped researchers and bring the pirates to justice," Jack corrected. "But yes, we would use hunting techniques to track them down. Our ship, the Horizon, is fast and equipped with advanced sensors. Our crew is trained in tactical operations. Give us a chance to prove that our nature can be an asset, not a threat." The council speaker was quiet for a long moment, its many limbs folded in what looked like deep thought. Finally it spoke. "This is highly irregular. The security forces will not like outside interference. Then we work with them, not instead of them," Kate suggested. "We share our strategies, teach them our methods. This isn't about showing off. It's about showing that we can cooperate, that we can use our abilities to help." Threnix turned to Daniel. "And you, Dr. Brooks? What is your opinion on this plan?" Daniel adjusted his glasses. "I think it's dangerous and potentially foolish, but I also think it's necessary. Captain Morrison is right. We're running out of time and talking hasn't worked. Maybe action will speak louder." Very well, Thrennick said. I will contact the security forces and arrange a meeting. But understand this. If you fail, if anyone is harmed because of your actions, it will confirm every fear that the delegates have about your species. The consequences will be severe. We understand, Jack said. We won't fail. The next morning, the human delegation met with Commander Zrel of the Galactic Security Forces. Zrel was a Velkari like Salenth, but where Salenth's patterns were usually calm and measured, Zrel's crystalline skin flickered with frustrated reds and oranges. Council Speaker Thrennick says I must cooperate with you, Zrel said without preamble. But I do not like this. These pirates have eluded us for years. What makes you think you can succeed where we have failed? Jack spread out a star map on the table between them. Because you're not thinking like hunters. You're setting up patrol routes and waiting for the pirates to make a mistake. But smart prey, or in this case smart predators, don't make mistakes. They adapt to patterns, so what do you suggest? Zrel asked skeptically. We think like them, Kate said, leaning over the map. Pirates need 3 things: a hidden base, access to targets, and escape routes. They've been operating in the outer reaches, hitting research stations. That tells us they know the area well and probably have a base nearby. Daniel pulled up data on his pad. I analyzed the last 6 attacks. They all happened during specific times when security patrols were changing shifts. The pirates are watching your patterns and timing their attacks for maximum opportunity. We know this, Zrel said impatiently, but the outer reaches cover millions of cubic kilometers. We cannot search everywhere. You don't have to search everywhere, Jack said. You just have to think about where you would hide if you were them. They need resources, fuel, supplies, places to sell stolen goods. That limits the possible locations significantly. He highlighted several areas on the map. These are trade routes on the edges of council space. The pirates need access to these to sell what they steal, and these asteroid fields provide cover and resources. Cross-reference the two and you get maybe a dozen possible locations. Zrel studied the map and Jack saw the security commander's patterns shift to more thoughtful blues and greens. This is sound reasoning. We have searched some of these areas before but never found anything. Because you searched like prey, Kate said bluntly. You announced your presence, moved in predictable patterns, gave them time to hide. We need to hunt. Fast, unpredictable, silent until we strike. This is aggressive, Zrel said, and there was uncertainty in their voice. We are trained to defend, not to attack. We're not attacking innocent people, Jack said firmly. We're going after criminals who kidnapped researchers and have been terrorizing this region for years. Sometimes defense requires offense. Sometimes protecting the innocent means hunting the guilty. Zrel was quiet for a long moment. Then their patterns shifted to determined yellows. Very well. I will assign 3 security vessels to work with your ship. We will try your way. But Captain Morrison, if this goes wrong, the consequences will fall on all of us. Understood, Jack said. When do we leave? Immediately. The Horizon and 3 security vessels departed the station within the hour. Ambassador Salenth had spread word through the conference about what the humans were attempting, and dozens of delegates gathered to watch the ships leave. Jack could see their faces on the view screens, some hopeful, many skeptical, all watching to see if the predators would succeed or fail. The journey to the outer reaches took 6 hours. During that time, Jack,